Welcome to the Steelers Report. Here you will find the latest news and rumors about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Always up to date with information about transfers, drafts, injuries, behind-the-scenes news, and everything involving the team. If you are a passionate fan and want to stay up to date with everything, this is the right place. Turn on notifications and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any news. Now let's get to today's news. Should the Steelers consider bringing back Dan Moore in free agency? Rebuilding an offensive line in a flash is never ideal, but in the NFL, it's sometimes necessary. The Pittsburgh Steelers experienced just that after the 2020 season, when they lost 4 of their 5 offensive line starters in a single offseason. 3 years later, one name from that overhaul still stands: Dan Moore, now a free agent. He begs the question, should the Steelers consider keeping him for 2025 and possibly beyond? Dan Moore's role with the Steelers. With Alejandro Villanueva gone and an urgent need for a left tackle, the Steelers selected Dan Moore in the 4th round of the 2021 NFL Draft. He has since established himself as a starter, starting 66 of a possible 67 games and playing nearly every offensive snap. Although his Pro Football Focus metrics rank him 46th among 141 tackles in 2024, he has shown steady improvement and has established himself as a reliable offensive lineman. Why keep Dan Moore? General Manager Omar Khan invested in offensive line reinforcements, drafting Broderick Jones in 2023 and Troy Fautanu in the 1st round of 2024. In theory, this would make re-signing Dan Moore unnecessary. However, the situation is not so simple. Jones has had few opportunities at left tackle and is still considered a developing talent. Fautanu, on the other hand, showed potential but dealt with injuries during training camp and during his brief participation in the season. This may make keeping Moore a prudent option to ensure stability at the position. The Steelers' history shows similar situations, such as the decision to keep Max Starks in 2008, even with established starters. Ultimately, Starks ended up taking over as the starting left tackle and was instrumental in winning Super Bowl 43. Although Moore does not have that Super Bowl experience, his presence could provide security in case plans with Jones and Fautanu do not go as expected. The cost of the renewal and the reality of the team. Despite the advantages of keeping Moore, there is one determining factor: the cost. The franchise tag for an offensive lineman in 2025 is $23.4 million, while the transition tag costs $21.2 million. Paying that amount for a player who, theoretically, would be a backup does not seem like a viable decision. In addition, the Steelers have urgent needs at other positions, such as defensive line, wide receiver, and cornerback. They also need to define their future at quarterback, considering that Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are still uncertain. Given this scenario, it is unlikely that the Steelers will use one of the tags to keep Moore. Without that contract security, he will have to test the free agency market and will probably receive offers that the Steelers will not be willing to match. The end of Moore's journey in Pittsburgh? Keeping Dan Moore as offensive line insurance makes sense in theory, but in practice, the cost and needs of the team make it unlikely. The Steelers have placed their trust in Jones and Fautanu to develop as cornerstones for the future, and now it's time to see if that gamble pays off. Moore had a respectable stint in Pittsburgh, but all signs point to him finding new opportunities elsewhere next season. Tyler Shaw, the Steelers' most intriguing rookie QB option. In 2021, a mock draft projected that the Pittsburgh Steelers would select Tyler Shaw in the 1st round of the 2022 draft. Almost 4 years later, the reality is quite different. While there are still some who believe he could be an option for the team, certainly not with such a high pick. Shaw's college career has been turbulent. He has talent, but he hasn't always excelled as a 25-year-old against younger opponents. In the NFL, a quarterback at that age must demonstrate maturity and consistency to justify a trade. Should the Steelers consider a quarterback in the draft? The need for a quarterback in Pittsburgh has generated debate. The 2025 class is not the strongest, and the Steelers don't have a chance to select top prospects. If Shedeur Sanders were to fall to the 21st pick, he could be an interesting option. However, The Athletic's Mike DeFabo points out that Tyler Shaw could be the team's best realistic choice. The most intriguing rookie QB, considering potential and draft position, is Louisville's Tyler Shaw. DeFabel wrote, "He's 25. He'll turn 26 in his rookie season, which means he has experience, but also a ceiling. At 6'4" and 230 pounds, he spent last season under head coach Jeff Brom. If he falls to day 3, or if Omar Khan gets an extra pick on day 2, he might be the Steelers' best bet to try out a new quarterback. Could Tyler Shaw be a viable option? Given the weakness of the quarterback class, there's no guarantee Shaw will be available in the 4th round. Names like Cam Ward, Sanders, Will Howard, and Jackson Dart could go sooner. There are also options like Jalen Milroe, but the bottom line remains: if the Steelers want a quarterback, they'll have to act. Pittsburgh currently has just 1 pick in the first 5 rounds of the 2025 draft. Without a 6th rounder and 2 picks in the 7th, the team doesn't have much flexibility to pursue a QB without compromising other reinforcements. If they trade a player like George Pickens, they could open up space to invest a higher pick in Shaw. Is Shaw worth the trade? The cardinal rule of quarterback drafting is that you only find a franchise QB if you try. Many argue that without a solid starter, the Steelers should keep looking for the answer. Right now, the team doesn't have a guaranteed name, regardless of which veteran they sign. The challenge with Shaw is his balance between ceiling and floor. At 25, he has less room to develop, but perhaps more talent than Kenny Pickett. The advantage is that he wouldn't cost a 1st-round pick. The problem? Selecting him would mean giving up a potential starter at another position. Are the Steelers willing to take that gamble? The answer could define the franchise's future at the game's most important position.